What's up guys, Crazy here, back with another Borderlands guide, and today we're going to go over the best farming methods currently in the game. These are the ones that I'm using the most, and they still do provide hundreds of legendaries even after the recent loot nerf. So we're going to jump right in with everything that you need to know, as well as a bunch of spoilers alerts, because there's going to be some endgame stuff that I'm going to talk about, as well as posting in this video, so just be mindful of that. I will assume that you're already playing at level 50 and you have finished the main storyline, as well as activating at the very least Mayhem 2, but even better, maybe even Mayhem 3. First of all, make sure you're using one of these items, this legendary artifact right here, which comes with a really awesome bonus that substantially increases your luck. This is something that will greatly benefit you in your hunts, and chances are that you already dropped at least a few of these, but maybe skipped on it because you saw that 75% health reduction. Trust me, this is definitely useful, and if you have a powerful build, you can more than make up for the lack of health. From this point, exclusively play this game in offline mode, at the very least when doing the legendary hunting. So if you're on the PC or console version of the game, simply close your application, turn off your internet either by pulling the plug or by turning it off from the settings menu, and then get back into the game. And what this does is that it removes one of the hotfixes from a few days ago that severely nerfed the loot drops. From this point on, you're pretty much set, and here are the 5 main methods of actually farming legendaries. The first two are the first two vaults that you actually encounter in the game. These are the Forgotten Basilica and the floating tomb with the Grave Ward. Then we have Athena's with a really awesome route over there that includes Chupacabra as well as a couple of bosses and a room with a red chest. Then we have a bunch of loot tanks also on Eden 6 in Jacob's estate. And finally we have the Calypso twins, each with their own respective encounters as well as their own legendary drops. So I'm going to start things off with the Grave Ward because he is one of the most accessible, he's one of the easiest, and he doesn't have any invulnerability phases. I have actually farmed this boss hundreds of times. He drops a ton of legendaries, and I'm using it also as a DPS test run. If you do this in like less than a minute, it's definitely good enough, and he's going to drop at least 3, 4, maybe even 5 legendaries. Once you do that, you're going to see some signature weapons, but there's also world drops over here that you might want. So if there's a specific weapon that drops randomly from other sources, this boss can also drop it himself. He also drops the Kielbasa shotgun, which even though it's an epic, it is one of the most powerful shotguns, if not the highest damage dealer in the game, before the hotfix was actually applied. Once you do that, you can go in the vault behind him, but there are no red chests over there, so I generally just avoid them because they don't seem to drop that many good items. The second one is the Rampager in the Forgotten Basilica on Promethea, and he has a little bit lower HP than the Grave Ward, but because of the invulnerability phases, he might take a little bit longer than the Grave Ward to take down. But even so, he drops a ton of legendaries, on average about 4 to 5, and he also comes with some nice signature rocket launcher that you might want to get on top. The mobs that get to spawn in between each phase also have a chance to drop their own legendaries, and to top it off, this is one of the best vaults in the game because it holds 2 red chests, and many times it happened for me to find a really awesome unique legendary from one of these chests, so I definitely recommend you go in and take one of them as well. The third route, and arguably one of the best in the game and something that has been used for quite a long time, is Athena's, because there's a bunch of mini bosses that drop a ton of loot. First of all, we have of course the Chupacabra really close to the bridge area, and this is where your farming should start, so just start with it. And if you're playing in offline mode, yes, this will still drop the same amount of legendaries as it did before the patch a few days ago. So do that, take its legendaries. Typically it drops like 1, 2, 3, but it is definitely useful because you can take it down really fast. Now you can do this over and over again, so just reload your game, take her down again, but you can also continue with a really awesome route for even more legendaries. So after taking off Chupacabra and taking off her loot, you can go in the graveyard right next to this area over here, and here is where you will find Captain Beans right atop of some stairs. He drops his signature SMG, but you can also farm him really quickly to get other legendaries on top, and it is definitely very helpful. From here on, what you'll want to do is to go back at the bridge area, and from this point on just continue to the end of the map itself. And here in one of the end rooms is where you will find Captain Trount, and you will want to farm this over and over again because he has some really high chances to to drop some really good gear. One of the best weapons in the game drops from him, which is the Lyuda sniper rifle, but there's a bunch of others in there as well that you will want to hunt for. So once you take him down, take his loot, and also pay attention to the room in the back. There's a room over here that opens up as soon as you take down Captain Trout, and it holds a red chest. Since red chests are some of the best weapon givers in the game, you can go in, take it, and you can also reload the game and start the same farming process again. The fourth method involves a bunch of guaranteed spawn loot things in Jacob's estate on Eden 6. And yes, this still works as long as you play in offline mode. So the way this works is that there's a bunch of locations over here where at least one or even two things can spawn at the same time. It's not just the end area in the back, there's a bunch of them along the way that a lot of people are probably missing. So as soon as you load in the area, just go to one of the first houses, and on the right side you will see one of them spawning a loot thing, sometimes even two. So once you pass one of the first stairs, open up your eyes because there is a high chance for one of the loot things to spawn on the house right over here. Take them down and also open the backpack. For some reason I've seen players not knowing about the backpack stuff, but this is where most of the loot is being held. From this point on, continue on the same path right up until you reach a bunch of other stairs right before one of the first bridges, and here is one single house in the middle, and what this does is that it can spawn even two things at the same time, as you can see over here. So it is definitely worth it to come over here and take them down as soon as possible, because these will drop a ton of legendaries on their own, so at least 4 between the both of them. It's just that you will need to take them down fast enough because they tend to run off quite a bit, and they also kind of tend to spread out, so just be mindful of that. Now if you reach this area, chances are that there's tons of enemies around you taking you on, so you might want to use a grenade or an AoE ability to take them down as fast as possible, while also concentrating your fire on the loot things before they manage to escape. It's a little bit tricky, but definitely manageable even on Mayhem 3, and on top of that you're also going to get a ton of legendaries, both from the things as well as from the badass enemies that get to spawn. The third and the final spawn point is right here in the back in the swamp region, right by this big tree over here, with the loot thing spawning from the room beneath the big house. Now the final two locations are a little bit spoilery, but yeah, they involve some very end game encounters and also some of the best in the game, because this is where you'll find some really powerful legendaries and some of the best pistols in the game, but not just that. So these of course are Tyrene the Destroyer and Troy Calypso. Both of them have different areas as well as different encounters. I'm going to start with Troy because he is the one that you encounter first of the twins, and he's also a little bit more annoying, especially since his hitbox is rather small, meaning that certain builds might not work that great against him. So just burn him down as fast as possible. You can definitely skip certain phases as long as you have enough DPS and you're hitting those crit points, but if he does manage to get into his first phase, you can take down the plates on the side. There's 4 of them that spawn when he goes in the middle and charges his damage. Once you've taken care of all of the 4 plates, he becomes exposed, so you can even do some damage right before he comes back into the arena. So it's definitely useful for you to go in and burn even more before he jumps back in. Once you do that and he comes into the second phase, here is where you can take him on in one single go, but if you don't manage to do so, there's going to be an additional phase right before everything ends. And he drops some really awesome weapons, but there's a bunch of other legendaries that you'll want to get from him as well. Once he's taken care of, you can go in the vault behind him, but there are no red chests over here, so generally speaking I'm just avoiding these because the chances for legendaries to drop from them are pretty slim. And finally we have Tyrene the Destroyer. She's actually much more manageable than her brother because she doesn't move that much, so much in fact that I can make this entire encounter to completely skip certain phases as well as most of its attacks. So as soon as I spawn over here, I'm just pulling in my damage, quickly bringing her into the invulnerability phase, taking down the eye on her back, and then doing so much damage that she doesn't even have any time to run away. She just drops back into the next phase and completely skips her attacks. In fact, from all of the bosses that I have tested, this one has the highest chances to drop at least a few legendaries. This is where you will get some of the best pistols in the game. This is also where I got the luck increase trinket that I got, and behind her there's also a vault that holds 2 red chests, so again making her one of the best farming spots in the game. And with this we have concluded today's video. These are all of the farming spots that I'm currently using. They are the easiest to reach, they all have vendors near them, they are really easy to do, and they drop the most amount of legendaries. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, a thumbs up on it would be super appreciated, and I'll see you guys in the next one.